Do you think of Japan as your home country?
Yeah. I think if
Really?
I had to pick between America, Bangladesh, and Japan, I would pick Japan as my home country.
Why? Hey, my name is Masa. I'm Japanese by blood, but I was born and raised in the US.
Hi, my name is Ayan. I was born in the States, but I grew up in Japan and my parents are from Bangladesh. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. How Japanese are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how Japanese am I? That's a good question. It depends.
It depends on what?
It depends on what I want. If I want something and I need to be Japanese,
Yeah.
I don't think I could be a 10, so I'm like a 9.
Yeah.
If I want something and I need to be American, I'm a 1.
Give me an example. What's one of each?
And so if people start asking me questions
Yeah.
about like being Japanese and I don't know how to answer it or I don't want to, just because mendokusai or something like that, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm American, no idea. And it's the opposite where if there's like on the topic of that, same thing where if people are like putting societal norms or expecting things from me, it's like, you're Japanese, you should do it this way. It's like, no, I'm American. I grew up there, I don't care. But when it comes to if I need something or it's just more advantageous to be Japanese, like whether it's in a store, if I'm like asking for help with something, I will speak more Japanese and put my American side away for a little bit just because that's what fits better, right? And for me, it's, I sound like a jerk for I'm rampaging around just doing whatever I want, but it does kind of come down to, I don't want to sacrifice my individuality as much, just to be able to do the things I want to do. So I do try to find a balance there.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
But I don't remember what the exact question was anymore.
How Japanese are you?
Yeah.
How Japanese
am I? How Japanese are you?
I would say very not. Thing is, I still try to follow those like manners that Japanese people have, because I did grow up with a lot of Japanese friends, and I don't want to seem like an asshole going around doing like, oh no, I'm not Japanese. But I try to be mannerful, like the way Japanese people are, but in terms of language, I'm still not there yet, I think. And I still don't know like Japanese pop culture, so I can't relate with that. So yeah, I am also trying to find that balance. And I understand what you were saying, because especially when I was in college, like if I say, oh, I grew up in Japan, and then they're like, oh, you know this anime, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't really watch anime, so I'm like, I don't know, I'm also Bengali and I know more of US culture, I guess. Yeah.
Is it my turn?
So, yeah.
Is it difficult to make Japanese friends?
Japanese friends?
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, I think it depends. Like depends on their background as well. If they're, I don't want to like stereotype it, but like if they're more Japanese in terms of, because the humor is different. Like you can see that. You can clearly see that, I think. And like, how there's that senpai kohai distinction, and if people believe in that more, I think it's also harder. But there are a lot of Japanese people who are exposed to international people, and from that I think it's easier, because they know and I understand as well, and you can find a common ground, and then it's easy.
Right. I don't know, I would say the same thing where there's almost categories of like Japanese people or like friends, where most of my friends are not quite Japanese.
Yeah.
Which yours is probably the same, but yeah, definitely people that have a much more open mindset or people that have experienced other cultures and aren't afraid of it. I should correct myself. Not necessarily that they're afraid of other cultures, but they're afraid of how they're kind of afraid and they don't know how to step into that world.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a fear of internal things as opposed to an external, I think. But definitely people that are more comfortable, more open are easier to become friends with, just converse with them.
Which do you like more, Japanese food or American food?
Oh, Japanese food, hands down. Because even in the States, when I was cooking for myself, it was like almost always Japanese food. And then parents would always make Japanese food.
Oh, okay.
American stuff is good. Like, you can't deny a good burger or pizza, especially New York pizza and whatnot. But as a whole, Japanese food is way better.
I agree.
But you got Bangladesh food.
Yeah, I eat Bengali food at home. So I guess I'm used to that. I miss it every now and then, especially now that I'm in college. Now that I'm in college, I don't get Bengali food as much. So I miss it, but I'm also not a picky eater, so. But Japanese food, comparing Japanese food and American food, I really miss Japanese food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so much. When I came back, I was just like, yes, finally.
Okay. Which country do you feel comfortable to be in?
Compared
I guess
to,
like you got multiple countries, so you can pick one. Or all of them, or none of them.
Thing is, it depends on which part of comfort I'm looking for, I think. Because Japan, like, I think everyone knows how safe it is, and it's very true. Like, I could leave my laptop on a public table, leave for 2 hours, and come back and it's still there. Totally fine, right? So if you're talking about comfort in that sense, then Japan. But because I still have that little language barrier, it is a lot more comfortable being outside talking to strangers in America, I think. Because everyone's open to just have a normal conversation out of nowhere, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up to this is, do you think of Japan as your home country?
Yeah. I think if
Really?
I had to pick between America, Bangladesh, and Japan, I would pick Japan as my home country.
Why?
I mean, I grew up here. Like, I'm so much more familiar going out and like just going wherever I want to do whatever I want. I feel a lot more comfortable navigating, and like not in like a logistics sense, but just comfortable knowing like, oh, I see Japanese people everywhere. You're like, ohayou gozaimasu, or you know, it's a lot more home to me, I guess. Sounds kind of cliche, but yeah, what about you?
I'm pretty indifferent. The US is comfortable, here is comfortable, but I think a lot of it has to do with I can speak both the languages fine. And so I don't have an issue talking to any person that's here versus anyone in the States. When it comes to casual conversation, it's definitely easier in English, but that's not a language thing. I think that's more of a cultural thing. There's only, like we were saying before, there's only a small pocket of people that you can have like a really casual conversation with without worrying about like all the like keigo and senpai kohai, all that garbage. So, but I've never felt uncomfortable living here, and I've never really felt uncomfortable living in the States either. So I don't know. I like to think I can probably survive in most places. But, yeah. As for like a home country though, I guess I've never really thought about like what's my home country or like, but when I do say home, I do think of the house that I grew up in.
Right.
And so I lived in a house pretty much my entire life in New York with my parents. So I guess New York State is my home. So therefore the US is my home country.
I see. Is there more? Last one. What is your cultural identity? Do you consider yourself a Japanese person? Do we go over this?
Kind of. But cultural identity is a good question where I don't know, right? Like we were saying before, there's a part of me that identifies as Japanese, part of me that identifies as American. But when it comes to like a cultural identity, I don't think of it as, I guess, either. It's much more of, I just want to be me, whatever that entails.
Yeah, I agree. I guess. It is hard because it's such a mix, especially like being with international students, growing up with international students. It's hard to pinpoint a cultural identity. Like I would usually start with Bangladesh because I grew up with Bengali parents, right? And cultures that kind of like passes down, like traditions and the food we eat, the holidays we celebrate. But I can't say 100% that that's my cultural identity.
It's the same thing with me growing up in the States. I would say I'm Japanese. Like, not that I'm American. I would say I'm Japanese because that's what my parents are. That's what I speak at home. It's the food I eat, things like that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see how that changes, how that kind of evolves as you grow older as well, I think. But with your, I guess with the cultural identity portion, around when did you start changing from I'm Bengali, I'm from Bangladesh, to whatever it is now?
I guess when I realized I don't have to say one thing, because I think when you grow up, you realize how everyone goes through different experiences and different backgrounds. To me, I thought, as a kid, oh, like, no one else has this, because everyone to me, around me was like, oh, I'm completely Japanese or I'm completely Korean. There's no other mix, really. So in my eyes, I thought, like, oh, then I have to pick one too, right? But then the more I realized, like, you don't have to, the more I'm comfortable being in the middle, I guess.
Fair answer.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Gaz. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Let us know what your thoughts in a comment down below. And if you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.